California's largest natural freshwater lake, originally referred to as Xabatin, which means big water in native Pomo. It is now known as Clear Lake.
The very first people that arrived in Lake County basically stayed in the Oaks arm of the lake and down in the Clear Lake arm of the lake for a couple of thousand years until the population grew to the point where they needed to establish settlements all around the lakeshore.
Since the first peoples showed up here on Clear Lake, hitch were a very important food source because they came to the people. When those fish came upstream to spawn, I mean, you literally walked, ankle deep in water and picked up your food and dried it for the next 6 months. Incredibly important, as well as other native fish like tule perch were very important. But remember, prior to the 20th century, bass, crappie, bluegill were not in this lake. People were reliant on pike minnow, reliant on hitch, reliant on Clear Lake split-tail, reliant on thick-tailed chub.
And a lot of the Indian people here, of course, that was one of their main staples. And they did a lot of fishing, and they kind of, we kind of took for granted that they're all going to be here. And then slowly, like in 2000, we started noticing this so slowly disappearing, and it became kind of an awareness to us. Like, we need to find out what's going on. So that was kind of like the beginning of the tribe's awareness about the hitch decline. So we got a small grant to kind of look at it, and sort of start looking at what's happening with the hitch, and so that was kind of the beginning of it. And we started applying for grants, and then we started doing planning grants and doing some implementation grants, and just, took it from there. Robinson was the first tribe to do that. And then I says, well, we can't do this alone. We have to invite the other tribes to start applying, for the same monies. And so eventually we all work together in partnership.
Some of the other projects like the carp and goldfish management, that's specifically because carp and goldfish are really good at eating eggs, and all fish eggs. So they devour them, and the carp get really big. So for example, we tagged one carp 2 years ago. It was a female, and it was 46 pounds. And so one study suggests that a 10-pound female can produce as many as, I think, 2 million eggs? 1 million or 2 million eggs. So if you kind of scale that up to a 46-pound female, I don't know how many eggs that one female would produce. And Clear Lake is huge, so there might be thousands those size.
It's a beautiful lake. It's a unique lake. It's, compared to, say, Lake Tahoe, which is very deep and very clear, this is almost the opposite end of lakes. It's very shallow, it's very complex, has 3 arms, and it's not clear despite its name. So what we learnt in those early years was how dynamic this lake is. And literally in an afternoon, it can change. The currents are extremely high compared to any lake, and it can move mercury or mercury compounds from one end to the other in a matter of hours. And those physical principles of how the lake moves are equally applicable to some of the contemporary problems like harmful algal blooms. And so that's what we've been sort of studying here.
So our current project in Clear Lake is mostly focused on understanding why the poor water quality in Clear Lake. And to do that, we have 2 main components in our program. So the first one is what we call monitoring, which essentially means measuring different things in the lake. And the different things in the lake that we can measure are very broad, right? So we mostly focus on physical properties such as temperature, oxygen, turbidity, but also biological and chemical components, right? Like nutrients or any kind of changes in the phytoplankton.
We have a program that tries to address the issues that the lake is dealing with right now. Our program on Clear Lake has to do with surface water monitoring, mitigation measures like tule replanting. We're paying attention to what herbicides are being used on the lake. We're looking at water chemistry trends. We're looking at the at cyanobacteria issues, and it's a lot of fun. It's great work. The tribe is very involved in the activities that we do, having to do with monitoring and other activities.
So the Superfund program is sort of the nickname for the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act, and it was passed by Congress to help clean up the most contaminated sites in the country. And the sulfur rank mercury mine was added to the Superfund list in 1990, primarily because the impact that the mine was having on the Elam Indian colony in particular, but also all of the users, sort of human and wildlife that use Clear Lake.
It's not a surprise that nutrients are an issue, that oxygen levels are an issue, that mercury is an issue. But we had to nail down where the sources were, what the greatest sources of those were, where they're settling, like the mercury, where it's most concentrated, where the phosphorus and nitrogen are most concentrated. And we've been able to do that. And then the question is, given where they are and the amounts, what are the best ways to reduce those amounts? As we clean this lake up and make it healthier, I'm really looking forward to a return of an improvement in the native fish, particularly the chi, which is a local native fish unique to Clear Lake, which has been heavily threatened. But talk about collaboration. The state and federal agencies and the tribes and the county and other locals have all gotten together to work diligently to try to save this precious fish that's not just important to the ecology of the lake, but is incredibly important culturally to the tribes in the area. And it's a great example of how when things get bad, people come together.
Clear Lake offers one of the top bird and bat watching experiences in the whole West Coast. So because Clear Lake and the surrounding area has ecoregions of oak woodlands, savanna, chaparral, wetland marshes, and grasslands, this means there's a wide range of flora. And it's really, a nature lover's dream come true. And it's a major resource for birds that are living in and traveling on the Pacific Flyway. And that's the major migration route that spans from South America to Alaska.
Come join us for the director's cut premiere of the documentary Xabatin, Big Lake, Big Science. 7 p.m. on Friday, September 12th, 2025 at the Soper Reese Theater, 275 South Main Street, Lakeport, California. Seating is limited on a first-come, first-served basis. Suggested donation is $8. Proceeds benefit the Soper Reese Theater. Tickets can be purchased through the theater. For more information, visit us at xabatin.org. We look forward to seeing you at the premiere.